Hi everyone. So glad for you guys all to come out to Edge and to be here for our Marketing for Communities panel. I want to take some time to introduce myself. My name is Nama Parliament. I am one of the co-founders of Delta Tech, and my co-founder Manya and I, we started Delta Tech a couple months ago just to bring together a community of fashion creatives and technologists within New York City, and to allow people to meet their next co-founder or to just learn more about fashion tech and host events just to highlight many of the founders and leading startups within the fashion tech space. So I am thrilled to be here with all of you and to be highlighting, marketing and how marketing is present at major and really cool fashion tech companies and also marketing agencies. So I wanted to kickstart it off and let our panelists introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Yulia. I'm the head of marketing at Treet. Treet is a branded resale platform partnering with fashion brands in the apparel space to help them own their secondhand markets and spin off their own resale experiences and resale programs. Treet is currently partnered with about 150 brands like Cuts Clothing, Girlfriend Collective, and basically what they do is allow their customers to rehome sustainably their items that they no longer want to wear. And rather than having the people go to Poshmark or to eBay to sell it or to Facebook Marketplace, we help brands provide a safe, reliable space for the customers to go and resell their items there. Happy to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Jane. I'm the founder of Dart Studio, which is a marketing agency focused on the Web3, AI, and emerging tech space. So very happy to be here today to talk about digital fashion and what's going on in this industry. And we primarily focus on social media marketing, as well as community building and doing live events and experiences.
Hello everyone, I'm Göçke. I'm one of the co-founders of Kalder. Kalder builds interactive loyalty solutions as a retention marketing tool for mainly brands and also creators and sports teams. We work with brands like Gentle Monster, Charlotte Tilbury, or Burberry, and the reason essentially they choose us is they see that the world of marketing and loyalty is changing and customers want to engage beyond products. And that's where we build quests, tokenization for you to have your all-in-one community under your own domain and start engaging your fans and community. And great to be here with you today.
Awesome. So great to highlight so many of these amazing female founders in the space. I wanted to kind of touch on, Jane, you mentioned digital fashion, and for those of you in the room who don't know, digital fashion is fashion that's represented through the metaverse or through online showcases or runways, etc. And also, if you guys were able to experience many of the stations that we have out there, there are many digital fashion experiences and also AR activations and many mixed media experiences available for you to try out. And so I wanted to kind of get your take, Jane, on kind of what are the, strategies for mixed media experiences from a digital to a physical world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously you guys did a great example of what a good mixed reality event is. Of course, there's the in-person component, but then you're also able to interact with both the digital and the physical. And that could be anything like the use of these digital screens right here, where you're able to actually interact with elements in the room. I think something else that's super great that we have here is digital try-on. So you could be looking at a piece of clothing and then interacting with it digitally. Another thing we see quite often is holograms and having those items there. And I think something else is connected clothing. And I know before we had your Culture Club and Kiki, you have the product chip. So you can actually have, a chip in your fingernail where if you tap it, you're interacting with the different consumer. And I think these are different ways where it's not so one-dimensional. Like if you go to a traditional fashion show, it's like you have people in the audience and there's a model walking on the runway. But I think what we've seen in the digital fashion world is those two activities can be happening side by side. So we have a model walking on the runway, and next to it is we have an avatar wearing a similar digital fashion look. So this creates a more like immersive and exciting experience. And I think, you know, from a marketing perspective, it's really great to showcase these new innovations in an in-person environment. Otherwise, it's really hard to, you know, onboard people who are like, what is digital fashion? What does it mean? But seeing it in this environment is really great.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was wondering, like, are there like specific experiences, like, you know, runways or just kind of like try-ons that like have really connected with people, like, or like, you know, new people like experiencing like digital fashion or like mixed reality like experiences?
Yeah, I mean, one example I really like is like I love 010, which are like AR mirrors, so you could try on different clothes with that, and I think that's becoming more of an ongoing trend. But yeah, and like I said before, I think also like connected clothing is something that we're going to see a lot more in the future, just because it's another sort of way to like connect to a memory where it's like, okay, how many people have engaged with my hat or seen my clothing, so it really tells more of a story, and I think that's what people are looking for.
That's awesome. I wanted to, I guess, shift gears to Göçke, and I was wanting to kind of talk about like the future of like shopping and also kind of like customer retention marketing. I know like Kalder works a lot with many brands and building out their customer loyalty program, and just kind of like what is like the, you know, best ways that you've seen like retaining customers and like working with brands to achieve that.
Yeah, definitely. So we work with very different size of brands, like brands that are just starting out in Shopify to brands like Burberry, who are like been in the space for like decades. What we are seeing is there's a universal goal and problem. The way people used to shop for products have changed since Shopify and Amazon came into the space. So the reason now that you can like anyone can start a brand, there's more than products and more than D2C brands than ever. So the new generation of customers are 80x more likely to change their brands. And for this reason, customers are not shopping for the products anymore, but the experience or status of it. And this is very clear with Generation Z, but even it's getting clear with the next generations as well. So right now what we're seeing in loyalty is the old age of loyalty is over, where you can't just give 10% off for the next like $100 shop, but you need to keep engaging your customer beyond point of sale. With Kalder, what this means is point of sale, the first purchase the customer gets is just the first engagement. This can also be when you like tap your like phone to the product to see it's like textile, like consumer breakdown, or when you walk into the store. So you need to acquire your customer to your community platform and membership platform and keep engaging them multi-channel. And in this multi-channel engagement, it's not only discounts or points, because customers don't care about them anymore. The experiences we see our brands use the most is actually like gated chats for live shopping and early access shopping with their favorite influencers from the brand, members only accesses or early accesses to the product from the Shopify storefront, which basically creates a way for the customer to be able to show and feel I am special in this brand and I am getting the early access. And third, the badges. We have built badges integrated to the products and also your status, similar to Duolingo that you can imagine, and could built in one-click shares for people to be able to share their memberships and products with the world. And what we have seen is the reasons people still buy Skims like black, like a sweater compared to the same in Amazon is because they want to showcase that, or they want to connect with the community that also buys that. And if you help the brands to be able to showcase that, then it's a retention loop that people can benefit from via gamification and then engagement channels.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like Duolingo, and I don't know if like anyone else has been traumatized by the Duolingo owl. Yeah, and I feel like that was like a I guess marketing tactic that Duolingo used, and I was just curious like what have you seen like different companies that tap into? I guess like Duolingo use Sphere, like are there like I guess alternative like marketing tactics that like you've seen brands tap into for customer retention?
Yeah, that's a great point actually. So what we have seen that might be interesting is like, for example, like we just touched the digital product passports and how that's a new interaction that we never had before. It's actually a regulation. So like in 2020, by 2025, every brand in Europe, or at least has a headquarter in Europe, will have to have digital product passports attached to their products. But what we're seeing our brands, like especially in this case, like for example, Gentle Monster do is like they are using this regulation, which is like very annoying to a lot of brands on it, and it sounds very like boring and cumbersome to the customer as an acquisition and that kind of engagement or fun point to be able to interact with their like immersive world. So they're using this like surprise and this regulation as a surprise and delight moment when customers expect it the least. And these type of experiences essentially leave customers with a delight to come back. And I have never seen fear yet, but like like Duolingo gamification can also be annoying, so maybe we will see this with badges and streaks we have with Kalder soon. And the other we've seen is like a kind of like layers of belonging and intimacy. Like we really look at loyalty in the Maslow's like hierarchy of like kind of belonging, and what we see is like the best loyalty is when like you can build a small group of subgroups, and like with like maybe like 100 to 500 people, where people can still belong and have multi-dimensional experiences, and keep engaging beyond the purchase. And that's kind of like we call it even like intimacy beyond like loyalty, because they are there for the small group of like people.
Yeah, there's like so much to learn about customer loyalty. So good for like the vast introduction, Göçke. Yulia, I wanted to kind of like bring up Treet. Treet is like a white label branded resale for other brands, and I was wondering like how does branded resale like drive customer loyalty?
Yeah, definitely. Something that you said about brands wanting to engage with a customer beyond that first initial sale. Branded resale is one of the ways that they can do that. So essentially, currently, a brand sells an item to a customer, and that who knows what happens to that item. But as far as the brand is concerned, they don't really know. They can't track whether that item gets sold somewhere, whether it gets donated, whether it gets trashed. So we are essentially bringing this experience to the brand where they're able to actually control their secondhand market by building out a program internally that brings the people back into the fold. So say, you sell one shirt to somebody, and then that person goes and wears it for a year, and then they come back, and then now they want to sell it, so they come back to your website again in order to transact that resale. And then you, as a seller, you get a choice to get cash back or credit back to the brand. So then if you choose credit, you actually get credit to shop something new. So it kind of brings you back into the fold several times, keeping you loyal. So that's one of the ways. But yeah, I think it's just like such an interesting thing, because beyond not seeing the data, a lot of the brands actually are not interacting with their customers in that way. Like they kind of know that this is happening. They know that there's a resale market outside of their grasp, and they know that people are reselling their stuff on Poshmark, and they don't like it sometimes. Sometimes they can resell like an expensive dress for $10 versus hundreds that it's worth. So this is a way for brands to own that experience and be able to set the full pricing, be able to control the quality. And as a consumer, you know that you're getting a better quality item. It's directly coming from the brand, it's verified by the brand, and you're actually going to get the item that you're buying. And yeah, so that's one of the ways to drive loyalty for resale. Just really all about bringing people back into the fold. A second way is just meeting them where they are. A lot of people are craving sustainability right now, especially the Gen Z population is so focused on sustainable shopping, they're thrifters, they love secondhand shopping. So if the brand is not giving them that outlet to shop in that way, then they're really missing out on that customer essentially. And so meeting them where they are is just saying like, hey, we hear you, you like shopping more sustainably, shopping resale is more sustainably, we have a resale experience, here we go.
I'm wondering, you mentioned how like brands don't really get a chance to like tap into their data, like they're not aware of like the data available in like resale from their products. Like, is that something Treet offers to brands when you partner with them?
Yeah, one of the benefits of working with us is we can actually offer data around what types of items actually gets resold, which is really valuable to a brand because you think that they are actually able to maybe make more of that item or maybe make less of that item and price it at a higher price point. All that data is super valuable because right now they're really not seeing what happens to the item after that first sale, and giving the ability to actually track it and be able to not only see where it goes but actually get a cut of every resale, because if they're providing this resale experience, we actually do a rev share with them. So they get 5% of every sale. So it's kind of they're making money off of that item once, twice, 3 times sometimes in some cases, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think resale is just like isn't it going to like astronomically like improve over the next couple of years?
Oh yeah, resale right now is growing 11 times faster than retail, and by 2027, which is in just a couple of years, it's going to be a $350 billion industry globally. So I think it's one of those, I'm biased, but I think it's one of those things where if a brand doesn't jump on resale right now, they're going to really miss out in a couple of years.
It's like super exciting. I wanted to, I guess, pivot back to Jane, and you were talking a lot about like mixed reality experiences and just kind of mentioning like, you know, try-ons, etc. I would love to know just kind of like what's the future of like mixed reality experiences? Like how are people going to interact at events and such in the future?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, and I think ultimately building what you both were talking about was loyalty. So it's like, how do you build loyalty through more immersive experiences? So I think, you know, the reward system where if you have 10 plus interactions on your shirt, that will enable you for rewards. And there's 2 great reasons why this is good. It's like, okay, let's say I'm wearing, you know, for example, like a 90cc hat, and I have 10 people tap the 9. It's like, 1, I'm now like a walking brand advocate for this brand. I'm then creating a community of other people that also know about my brand, want to be involved. And then also there's rooms for rewards in the future. And I think gamification of brands is going to be huge. Like, unfortunately, people need like the next level incentive to go ahead and buy something, and they want something that makes them feel like a part of it. And I think, you know, going back to you said, why does someone buy, like, you know, if it's Skims versus the Amazon brand, they want to be part of this community, and they want that digital representation and ownership of that experience. And something else that I think really cool looking ahead is, of course, we all know like the Vision Pros were released, and I think that fundamentally is kind of going to change how we like interact and shop. And back when we were all building the metaverse in 2020, everyone's like, nobody's going to do this is so far-fetched. But now that we're showing ways that you could kind of go about your daily life, but then also be interacting in the metaverse, is going to change how like the everyday consumer views digital fashion and whatnot. And I think like soon we're going to see ways where I'm like, oh, I like your shirt, and you can kind of like see it in your glasses, and then like go ahead and buy that, and sort of like the boundaries between like seeing something, owning something, wearing it, and buying is all going to be blurred in the future.
You mentioned like the gamification and just kind of like, you know, the mixed and like blurred like future of like mixed reality experiences. I was like wondering, I guess both to like you, Göçke, like whoever wants to chime in, just kind of like how does like gamification like how do you foresee that playing into like customer loyalty, like marketing, etc. And like what is like the future of that?
You can follow up from your brand.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So what we see gamification aspect is essentially like as a core player to how like we can keep customer coming back. Like we like started the conversation by saying like products are not like and cannot be the only acquisition point to your brand anymore, and that's because like most of the product offerings, if you just have a simple Shopify storefront, will not differentiate from the rest of thousands of like pools of customers and pools of brands that are around the world. The way we see gamification playing in is one, the data layer, two, the retention layer. So if you want your customer to give you feedback, complete certain votes or quizzes, you need to make it interactive so that they are taking that leap to complete that quest. And in Kalder, we actually call it overall quests. We have around like 100 integrations from like referrals to quizzes to votes to gated like live shopping chats. And what we are seeing is if there is a direct like community interaction and a win that a user can put it on their profile and connect with others on that shared award, then that gamification will lead around like nearly like 30x engagement. So an average loyalty tool has normally 2% engagement. Like think about like thousands of memberships you joined and forgot. And what we are seeing is if you build the gamification aspect to your community tool well, then you can come to a place where your top fans or like top loyalty members can visit, like 1 in 2 members will visit your membership at least once a week. And like essentially award systems and community systems are like very core to that. And the second aspect to that is actually what we're seeing in sports is like Kalder sports customers, the ones that use the gamification element the most are the ones that can't go to the games. Because like if you can't go to the store or go to the games of your favorite team, then you need to connect with a community or show off your profile badges or like Reddit-like avatars to still feel like you're part of that group or like cult. So in that sense, like gamification is foundational for you to be able to connect others that have no way to connect back with you now as a founder of that brand or the community of that brand.
Yeah, so gamification just has a lot of ties into like community building overall, and I guess on that note of like community, I know like many brands like have like I guess third-party like resale, like secondhand shopping going on, whether it's on like Facebook or Poshmark, etc. And Treet really wants to like draw that disjointed community together. So I'm just like wondering, Yulia, like what's your take on why, or like I guess the draw for brands to kind of like bring in that community?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the ways that we decide if a brand is fit for resale is we take a look at their existing resale community elsewhere. Don't know if you guys are familiar, but there are a lot of buy-sell trade groups that happen on Facebook. It's literally just people who are exchanging items, or they're saying, hey, I have a bag in this color. Do you want to buy it? And those communities stem out of love and loyalty for that brand, that they love these brands, they're finding one another, just like these girls said, that the community feel and affinity is so strong. So what we find is that brands, like we come to brands and we say, do you know that you have 100,000 people on Facebook in this group buying and selling your stuff? And they're like, no. And you're like, well, okay, you should know that, one. And two, like, how do you capture that audience? Like, how do you bring them back? And I think that this is a really cool way where by having their own resale experience, they're actually able to go to that community and say, hey, you guys love doing this already. You're already doing this everywhere. Why don't you come on over to like our site / brand.com/resale, for example, and sell it there or buy it there. And it's just such a better experience, and I think that we've had a lot of success converting these groups to being their resale followers and shoppers, because they're already engaging in this community. So this is just a way for the brand to make that easier for them. So it's just a way for the brand to really meet them where they are again, and have this, like, turn this into an actual official thing, which is cool. And one of the things I wanted to add is that to the gamification aspect of things, I mean, we actually integrate with a lot of loyalty companies as well, but resale can also be gamified. So if you do build it into like a platform like Kalder, for example, you can actually give points to people for for reselling something, and it's essentially to incentivize people being a little bit more sustainable and like, okay, cool, you bought this dress yesterday, a year from now, come back and resell it, and you get 300 points rather than just discarding it or just tossing it aside. So
definitely a lot of like ties between like Calder and Treet and like so many ways in which marketing can be used. I wanted to ask like Göçke, I know you mentioned a lot about just community and like brand building and also just like customers too and like all those interactions. I was wondering like what is, I guess, is there like something, is brand to customer interaction more important than like customer to customer building, or like what's like, I guess, the optimal way that brands usually target their community building?
Yeah, that's a great question actually. So what we have seen is like most of the brands come to us either like when they have tried to use like a loyalty tool before and like or try the retention marketing strategy. And if you really look at the core of it, retention marketing is basically saying people like me or people tried me and like I want to keep them coming and then I want them to keep like loving me, and at the like kind of epiphany of this, you're like what we call like cult like following brand, and you're not enough or you're not like scaling your engagement well. So what we're seeing is the first like kind of version 1 of this was essentially like yacht or smile like loyalty, where like you give 10% or like give them an email saying insider like you got a discount, and that made them feel special. But now that that's not enough, we are seeing like essentially first brands want to scale their like brand to community top-down interaction, but after in the long term, if they want their loyalty and community building to be scalable, they have to build the mechanisms for community to community engagement, because that's the only way the community can keep others coming in and you can have an exponential growth without having brand marketing dollars spent. Like when you can build such good, like let's say 100 true like loyal fans or 1,000, then they will do the moderation and work for you to manage and scale your loyalty. But it's not going to be a one-day job. It's going to be a long-term aftermath of building and investing in your community and loyalty tools.
Calder has like an interoperable like community, right, where like so brands can like collaborate with each other and also kind of like tap into like other brands' communities. Like, can you talk about like, I guess, the experiences derived from that?
Yeah, definitely. So Kalder in the backend uses blockchain technology for reward exchanges, and there's 2 main reasons for this. We are building like this shared standard for rewards, so that by just tapping off your Apple Wallet, you can spend your Godiva rewards in Starbucks rewards in like Nike, and like all partnered ecosystems one day. And what we are seeing is though, like the version 1 of this where like you were trying to build liquid markets around rewards never worked, because a Burberry will never work with Walmart, and you need to let the brand decide their partners. And we call this a consortium. Like if there's a consortium around like 10 brands and another partner like Adidas wants to enter that consortium and Nike is already in that group, Nike needs to allow and be part of the like acceptance on that group for the rewards to be exchanged. So in this way, what happens is loyalty is not only a retention strategy, it's also an acquisition point. So one of the like my favorite quests and experiences through Kalder was when Chinatown Market, which is an LA-based brand, partnered with Le Benjamin, which is a Europe-based brand, through Kalder, and they were able to create, like basically post both experiences of a members-only product access, where only if you had both memberships from both brands, you got early access and you were able to spend your rewards from each brand. So both like for reward utility and unlocking experiences, brands love it because it's like more acquisition. Like if I can target, like if Golf Brand can target like another brand that like Burberry's customers, all the better. And on customer side, customer love it because they have more utility for their rewards and more experiences to unlock. So it's we try to build this win-win for both the brand and the customer.
It's nice that you touched on, like, I guess, customer acquisition also. I guess maybe like an open-ended question for all of you. Like, what do you think is like being done right now to shift, I guess, brands' marketing strategy from like customer acquisition to like more customer retention based marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of that, it's kind of what you were mentioning before, is having the repeat access and loyalty. I mean, I don't have a brand in the fashion space, we more do like events and social, but I think it's keeping people, feeling really connected to the community of your brand is something that we've hit over and over again, where the way that someone kind of converts from just like a passive observer to what you're doing is they feel like they're part of something, they feel like they understand, who's in your community, who's building this brand, how can they make you feel like you're connected to the product, and any sort of ways that go about that, I think is going to be really successful. I'll throw to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. And also, there is just a study that said that it's actually a lot cheaper to retain a customer than it is to acquire one. So I think every brand has their budgets are pretty strapped. So their focus is now on retention because it's cheaper and ultimately much more ROI driven towards the end. So there's a ton of things that they can do to retain a customer, such as creating awesome experiences or loyalty programs, or trying things like brand resale to bring them back. In terms of acquisition though, one of the things that we always get asked is if a brand creates a resale experience, will that cannibalize their customers? Like, will people just start buying second-hand items versus the first-hand items? And we actually haven't seen that. It's funny because I think resale really attracts a different type of customer, like a thrifter who was never shopping the brand firsthand in the first place. So it's actually a cool acquisition channel because now that the brand is offering this lower price affordability to kind of barrier to entry, they're now suddenly appealing to this thrifter, saver, bargain shopper that maybe hasn't been shopping before. So they're now becoming a customer of the brand and perhaps even just trying something secondhand, maybe liking it and then coming back and buying it full price later on. So it's actually a really pretty cool kind of sneaky strategy there.
Yeah, it's like using customer retention to
acquire customers. Yeah, it's a little backwards, but it works.
Göçke, you had any?
Yeah, definitely. So I think from acquisition side, like what we're seeing is like basically to what Yulia said, like acquisition and retention actually like goes very much like hand in hand. One of the main ways we have seen retention can turn into acquisition is partnering with other brands, like co-marketing, and essentially as like in Kalder sense, it's like creating more cross-brand rewards and cross-brand promotions. And this way, essentially, you are opening to new markets and new ideal customer personas that have never known your brand, but were still synergistic with brands that that customer was excited about. So it's really important, but in this economy, or like in the type of like brands we're seeing now, retention is top priority because at this point, ad spend doesn't add up. So the traditional sense of acquisition we know today is essentially over and killed by the walled gardens of social media. And that's why we will, in the next decade, we're going to see like creative acquisitions, like cross-marketing a lot more, and then very much like heavy investment on experiential marketing and rewarding for the existing true fans to increase the wallet share of an existing customer and build more loyalty.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, great to hear just about how like these differences can also like be very much tied hand in hand. I know Göçke, you mentioned earlier about like the newer generation, like Generation Z, Generation Alpha, and like how they react differently to just like customer loyalty. And I guess a question for all of you, like, what's your take on like, I guess the considerations taken into like accommodating like Generation Z, like the newer generation for like brand affinity, like customer loyalty, etc.
I'm happy to jump in on that one. I think from our perspective, one big takeaway for what they're doing is seeing this sort of clothing in games, and that sort of really ties into what we're doing with digital fashion. Like for example, a brand like Ralph Lauren they're really about like having timeless fashion and fashion for everyone, and then they're really a huge player in Roblox, for example. So I think for them, they're thinking, okay, like how do we get this younger generation? They're already seeing our products and our brands like in the games that they're playing. And then what I also think is interesting is this generation is used to spending money in game. And I think for a lot of people our age, like the concept of like, okay, the value of a digital good might be more foreign to them, but I'm really interested to see the shift as this younger generation that's like they grew up, spending money on Fortnite skins. Of course, that's sort of going to translate as they grow up and how they're spending. So I think that's one of the big shifts I'm seeing.
For us, I mentioned this a few times, but it's really about sustainability for Gen Z. We're seeing that sustainable shopping and thrifting and secondhand shopping is really, really largely driven by the Gen Z. They're super cool. They like their unique styles, and they don't like to wear whatever everybody else is wearing. So it just like it makes sense for them to be able to find that secondhand. And I think that this is just an opportunity for brands to get in with the Gen Z, and by being able to offer this resale experience, by being able to offer a secondhand section in their stores or a full resale experience, by giving them the choice to shop more sustainably, by giving them a choice to buy something that may have been, like an old item, or like an archived item, like snacks, something really cool. That's just one of the ways that I can see that.
Can you hear me? Okay. In Kalder, we essentially like separate this into 3 paradigm shifts. So we actually had an article about this called like Brands 3.0, and which is in context with the title of the where we are too. But Brands 1.0 was essentially when the first like brands like soap brands and utility-driven brands like came out, and like the only way we could shop were like our kind of corner stores, and it was very utility focused. And Brands 2.0 was the era of D2C marketing, where ads could get you infinite amount of customers. Shopify came out, and we built the rails of freedom to build a brand from wherever you are or whoever you are. Now the last shift is Brands 3.0, where the brand needs to offer co-creation and engagement, and the money is not the only currency, but engagement is the new currency. So what we are seeing with the new generation is, one, they want their engagement to be monetized as the customers. So they share your product experiences, they join your Roblox, and they join these communities if they see the satisfaction of an award or status that's worth using. And this can be like either spending that reward or feeling good that they have that status, or that they have a voice in the brand. And this voice can be that like they're voting on your next product, co-creating an early access, or deciding on your next sustainability action. And being able to scale that co-creation and essentially engagement will be the new era of building a brand from bottom up.
Yeah, there's so many like great engagement that like folks you touched on, like that, like the newer generation is definitely like seeking out for like brand affinity. And it's funny you mentioned Roblox. Like my nephew, like every Christmas, like he always asks for like Roblox points or whatever instead of like money. And so like that's like their actual like social currency. And same thing with like resale and like, sustainable shopping, where like the newer generation like really sees value and like, oh, like this is a cool thrift find that like I sifted through like the Goodwill bins to find and everything. So like it's like it's super cool to just see how like the newer generation is like reacting to their affinity to brands. But yeah, that was all of the questions that I had for our panelists. I would love to open up the floor to the audience for any questions.
Hey, thank you guys for such a lovely panel on learning a lot. The retention program sounds like a really good strategy for brands. I do come from an Asia background, so I like Asia retention program. We call it private domain. We're doing it like huge in China because it turns out to be ROI so much cheaper than like the public domain because in China traffic is just so expensive online. So yeah, I do definitely think it's the trend here. But the question is really, so if any brand here, say the CMO or the marketing head, are thinking about the retention program, how do they start? Not just the execution, but just like they're thinking about it. How should they start, or what are the resources they should start? And secondly is that if they do want to launch the program, what are the changes is going to be? Say for example, for the agency industry or for their internal organization. I think because it's going to change, because in China, like I do see a lot of changes. There are agencies are having private domain practices. There are like brands in their organization. There's like a private domain teams already. So I think it might be a future for all of us. So that's it.
I can get started on this. Great question, thank you. What we're seeing on the Kalder front, since we sell to these brands starting their journey to think about retention, is that the best way to start is definitely, most of the time there's a brand marketer in-house in the brand, essentially delegated to do the research. And most of the times, if they're Shopify led, they will be looking into Shopify app ecosystem, and depending on their annual recurring revenue, they will be looking up the enterprise ladder like SAP and like others. Or if there's like only in Shopify, they will look at like Smile and Yotpo. But what they will start seeing is that, one, how do I differ from all these tons of rewards out in the world? And two, how do I keep it simple? So whenever we help a brand to like start in their journey, for example, Charlotte Tilbury had a totally different like loyalty app before they met with Kalder, and their biggest problem was that everyone was very confused about the point system, exchange rates, and how to use it. So on the high level, I would really recommend to any brand starting their journey is, what are the 3 to 6 benefits you want to give to your customer that you think they would love to have, and what do you want your loyalty rewards to be used for at max for these 3 to 6 benefits, to keep it simple to start with, and then iterate on it, so that instead of setting a very complex structure, adding these new additions every week or month will surprise and delight the customer more than just bombarding them with information once they acquire. Because the biggest problem with loyalty programs is more than 50% of customers churn after the first couple months. So it's much more important to not overdo it at the start, but keep engaging them every 2 weeks or every month, so that there is something to come and be excited about.
Yeah, that's an excellent segue. I think, speaking of loyalty points, I think we've seen a lot of, images in social media going viral, right? People lining up at the airport to get into the lounge to try and redeem all the loyalty points that have accrued, and of course can't get in, which speaks to how it's sort of become transactional. Right? I think the original ideal of loyalty is, when you love the brand so much that you're willing to take a hit to be able to use it. And I hate to invoke, Elon Musk, but the notion of pre-ordering even before, the item becomes available, etc. And just helping, the aspiring buyer do the right thing. I think. I can talk about my experiences at Save Away at a different time. We help brands, consumers make bigger purchases from brands without credit, debt, or regret. But I'd love to have the panel comment on authenticity and kind of fostering that true sense of loyalty to the brand.
I can start. One of the things that, speaking about loyalty from a resale perspective, one of the ways that we found works really well is if you actually promote your resale experience up front. So before a person even buys anything from your brand, saying that we have a resale experience program available to incentivize a person to buy it, knowing that we can always sell it back. So invoking girl math here, if somebody is buying something, say it's a pair of shoes and they're $300, but you know that you can definitely resell them for, I don't know, $100 a year later, then you're only paying $200 for those shoes, and that becomes a lot more affordable. So just using your something like your program that's technically at the end of the life cycle and moving it forward to let customers know ahead of time that, okay, if you do buy something, we actually have a place for you to sustainably rehome this, works as that incentive.
Yeah, and I can also comment from like a social media marketing perspective, also like encouraging like UGC content. So, getting rewards for, everyone post your picture of this panel and free coffee on me, just kidding. But like that kind of thing really encourages people to want to participate, show their experience, and then instead of just getting like the brands like curated, like this is what you're looking at, you get it from all the perspective of the people that are there, of the people that are interacting it, and I think that makes people trust the brand more by seeing the real consumer.
I guess like a general question, if someone was starting out their own sustainable fashion brand, how would you recommend them to find their target market today?
Yeah, so I can, from our perspective, what we're seeing with like smaller brands is like, in 2 years ago when we started, I was actually seeing like one of my like close friends, like beauty brand, like starting up and like using like Kalder only for their like 100 like members. But like through that, what I have seen is if like I'm sure you have like a community of like early customers or people like believing in you and building that, just like a company would build their board members and cohort to get advice, building that like early group around you to like co-create with you or like get good feedback loops and build true loyalty for them to be also selling and advocating and be like finding those customers would be very critical, at least from that retention perspective, and I think helping to find the brand voice too. But I'm sure there's sustainable perspective in the panel as well.
We have one more question over here.
Hi, thank you. First of all, I really appreciate a very insightful dialogue here. I'm Wendy, and I'm actually creative director of Visual Conductor, and we are an experiential creative studio with capabilities of transitioning brands from Web 2 to Web 3. So what you guys are talking about, I'm super excited about. I have a two-part question. We talked about gamification, and it's refreshing to see so many fashion brands jump into the metaverse. So my two-part question for you is, number one, what do you see in the next iteration of the metaverse in terms of experiences, what you would like to see? And then part two is, while it's targeting Gen Z and millennials, do you at some point see adoption by adjacent generations as well too? And how would you engage those generations?
Yeah, I'll kind of chime in. Can you guys hear me? Okay, the mic just cut in. But yeah, I'll chime into sort of the first part of the question is in terms of what we want brands to see in the metaverse. Unfortunately, like that term got kind of overused and sort of thrown on the wayside. So I think the future is kind of how can you think about adding technical integrations to more like traditional shows. So that's sort of what I was talking about, the mixed reality, right? So maybe it's like in your traditional fashion runway, can we also see like a virtual replication of what is going on and kind of having those two experiences side by side. And I think it's very clear that like there's not really a situation where we're all just living solely in the metaverse like all the time. It's sort of, how can we make those two experiences connected? So for example, maybe if you do want, your consumers to engage in more of a virtual space, you could kind of say, okay, I saw you here, then if we're going to do like a follow-up reunion in 2 weeks where we can have, X space where we talk about what we learned while everyone is in a certain metaverse. So I think ways that you can combine the two and sort of, have interactions that across both playing fields, I think will make you successful. Does anyone want to take part 2 of the question?
I don't think I have anything for the metaverse.
Yeah, I think I can add to that. And like what I am seeing scaling through like adjacent like our partners is that actually like to what Nama said, like in different realities like games. Like for example, if there's actually like an award to win or a point to spend, like the newer generations are much more excited about that, and then building that like in that virtual reality, like spend and earn like mechanisms really helps for people to keep the engagement going, and also the ability to also take that status or win or like your experience and be able to represent that in social media is very powerful, because people love to show where they attend or what they engage with. So building those rails for one-click shares or like in those like Roblox like type of like mini games will be very helpful.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for coming out. This is a nice panel. Feel free to flag down these 3 lovely ladies to learn more about Kalder, Dart Studio, and Treet. Thank you for coming to Edge.